Addison's disease. So think about this for a minute. Addison's disease. Can Addison's disease cause hyper or hypokalemia? This is like a deep thinking question here.
Background on what Addison's disease is again.
What is it?
Shrinking of the adrenal gland, isn't it? Or
It's a shrinking of the adrenal gland. Which part of the adrenal gland? So that's the key part to this. The cortex, okay? So we have the cortex on Addison's disease. So you got this adrenal gland, something like this, it's on top of the kidney, right? Kind of really bad proportionally drawn, but basically the cortex is this section. There's 3 layers, and there's 3 hormones released from there. One of them has to do with Addison's disease.
Cortisol.
Cortisol, right? Is Addison's disease high or low cortisol? Low, right? So the way I think about that is Cushing's, right? Cushing syndrome, that's high cortisol because it has a C, where Addison's disease doesn't have a C, so it's low cortisol. So what's happening, like he said, is a degeneration of the cortex, so you can't release as much cortisol, right? So these people end up with hyperpigmentation though too, right? Why do they have hyperpigmentation?
Because it increases.
How does it increase melanocytes?
It's like the turret peptide something.
Yeah, the protein, right, or palm C. And so these things, where does that come from? What are you guys talking about?
Wait, no, that would be that specifically in the anterior.
So to release cortisol, let's say, in some kind of stress or something else, we're gonna release what from here? From the hypothalamus.
CRH, yeah.
Corticotropin releasing hormone, CRH, right? I think C stands for cortisol, has to be cortisol. Okay? It's gonna go down the track of the portal.
The portal.
The portal system in the blood, it's releasing hormone, it's a hormone. And it's gonna go to the cortisol releasing cells here. And then these cells are gonna release what?
ACTH.
ACTH, along with what else?
Melanocyte stimulating hormone.
MSH, right? These guys are linked. It's like firing a shotgun, right? So if you want to fire a shotgun and you want to fire one BB, is that possible? No, right? You have to fire all of them. It's all one shell and they have to come out together. Well, these guys are found in one shell and they have to come out together, okay? So if you want to release ACTH, you have to release MSH, which stands for melanocyte or melanosomal stimulating hormone. What do melanosomes do? Quick review.
Pigment.
Pigmentation, right? And what is pigmentation called? It starts with an M. It sounds like that. Melanin, right? And where in the skin, what layer is it found in the epidermis, dermis, or hypodermis? Epidermis, and what layer is that epidermis?
First or second.
It's first or second, so you got 2 options there.
Wait.
Yeah, the stratum bacilli, right?
Yeah.
So you see, you guys remember what you think. So, in the stratum bacilli, you have melanocytes, right? Which releases melanin, and there's 2 types of melanin. What is it? You guys know? Remember that? So there's pheomelanin, right? Does this sound familiar?
No.
No? Okay, maybe I'm crazy. Pheomelanin. I don't know if you know this, but so there's melanin. And there's 2 types, pheomelanin and eumelanin. This is like darker people and this is like whiter people. So like most of us in this room have a lot of eumelanin. Whereas people that have like darker skin and stuff like that, like Mexicans, South America, Africans, anyone that has like even like Italians, stuff like that, have like this darker kind of skin, they're gonna have more eumelanin found in their skin. Whereas we have more reddish, blonde, paler skin, they have more pheomelanin. But anyways, this is gonna cause that to release. So why do you get hyperpigmentation in Addison's disease?
Because
Why are you releasing a lot of this?
you don't have cortisol, you can't make it, but it's still telling you to make a lot of it. Right?
Yeah. So is this considered positive feedback or negative feedback or no feedback at all?
Negative feedback.
Negative feedback in normal people, right? But in Addison's disease, is it positive, negative, or no feedback? No feedback, right? So sometimes people think it's positive feedback, but the problem is they're not making cortisol. And cortisol does the feedback, right? If there's no cortisol, there can't be any feedback. It's not that it's positive feedback causing high ACTH and MSH, it's just there's no feedback. So the stress is there, but it's not being dealt with. And so the body thinks, oh, I need to make more. obviously don't have enough. And so it makes more ACTH, and then it makes more MSH at the same time, because ACTH is hoping to come onto this cortex and release cortisol, but at the same time it has to release this, and that's constantly going to be stimulating the skin to make more pigmentation, so they get tanner and like random spots, right? So they have to take cortisol injections or some kind of glucocorticosteroid to be able to cause this negative feedback, right? And actually have the anti-inflammatory effects of that is the whole point, right? Really anti-inflammatory is what we take. Okay, but back to this question. Why can Addison's disease lead to hypo or hyperkalemia?
So that's potassium.
Potassium in the blood. Why can Addison's disease affect this though?
It has to do with aldosterone.
Has to do with aldosterone, why?
Because the cortex isn't working, the cortex is where you make aldosterone.
The cortex and the outer layer of the cortex, the 3 layers, right?
So if you don't have aldosterone, which stimulates the sodium-potassium pump, if you have less of those, then you're gonna have higher potassium in the blood.
So
Or-
what happens? You have in the kidneys, you're gonna start absorbing, putting sodium back into the blood. Right? You're gonna put
Yes.
sodium back into the blood, which means that you put potassium back into the filtrate,
Yeah,
or going to the toilet basically, right?
and then the water is
so-
gonna follow the salt.
And the water follows the salt, and so you get that increase in blood pressure and all the things that you're looking for with aldosterone, right? But if they have a decreased cortex, they can't release this, they can't do this, which means this, like you said, stays in the blood, which leads to hyperkalemia. Does that make sense? So that's a risk that they have going into life, and they have to kind of learn to manage that, right? And there's drugs that can help us get rid of potassium. So does that explain why hyperaldosteronism can lead to hypokalemia?
Aldosterone, a lot of aldosterone.
Because that would just increase the rate of this, which increases the rate of this. So we're kicking out a lot of potassium, which leads to hypokalemia.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
Lots of aldosterone would mean lots of potassium inside the
Leaving.
cell.
Hypokalemia.
Lots of it leaving, so we don't have any
It's not staying in the cells, it's leaving and going
down the toilet.
down the toilet, right? It's going in the filtrate and we're voiding it out. Does that make sense now?
No,
No.
still not making it.
Okay, so what does aldosterone do?
Increases sodium potassium pump activity.
So sodium gets reabsorbed into the blood, and then potassium gets kicked out into the filtrate. This is happening in the kidneys, right? So this is happening in the kidneys, and it's putting it
Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
into the
Yeah.
filtrate or in the nephron, right? Which then eventually gets eliminated. And so it's not that it's going into the cells and it's coming out into the blood, it's the fact that it's going into the filtrate. And so you're losing the potassium. Does that make sense?